Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Conductor in Quarantine series. It's been quite a week. As you may have noticed, I'm in a different quarantine location than I've been before, and last week I would have assumed that that location change would have been the most challenging part of this week. That has not turned out to be the case, and I don't want to air too many of my personal details on a YouTube video, but I do know that there are people watching this potentially who need some well wishes and good vibes and love, and I'm sending all of those things your way. I do want to recognize the passing of George Adams, friend and colleague from my Pocatello, Idaho days. I knew him mostly as the principal bassoonist there, but for those of you who don't know much about his bio, he grew up in LA, played with the LA Phil. Tuba players in the audience will appreciate the fact that he went to high school with Roger Bobo. But he also had an extensive conducting career, particularly in Texas, before making his way to Idaho. George was often a very, very sweet man, and I hope that neither he nor his loved ones would be offended if I pointed out that he also had a curmudgeonly side. I always knew, standing on the podium, if I heard bad words emanate from the woodwind section, that George was dissatisfied with some particular feature of his performance at that moment. Conducting conductors is an interesting dynamic, and you almost always are. There are almost always conductors in the group that you conduct, and that can go kind of one of two ways. You have some conductors who try to be helpful. Well, that's an interesting way of doing that. I wonder if you've considered this way, and I saw this very famous person do it this way, and you're really sure you want to do it? Because I think this would work better, that kind of thing. The other way that it can go is that they can give you the space to find your own path, and they understand that that's really the most effective and important thing for the conductor on the podium to be doing, even if they may personally have different opinions about how things should be done. And I always appreciated George for falling into the latter category, which wasn't necessarily an automatic thing. I came into Idaho as my first music director job, and George, had his strong musical opinions and his decades of experience, and but he got that. He always knew that I needed the space to find my own path, and I was always grateful to him for that. I also hope that he wouldn't be offended if I characterized his musical tastes as tending old school, sort of the more German the better. I wasn't planning on actually doing another Bach video quite so soon, but given that, and given how important his faith was to him, a little sacred German music seemed appropriate. So the chorale I'm going to play for you today is from Cantata number 4, Christ lag in Todesbanden, Christ lay in the bonds of death. It's actually an Easter cantata, one of the first that Bach wrote. We don't know exactly when, probably in 1707. He would have been all of 22 or so at that time. One thing that I've changed here, the chorale, as it usually does, falls at the end of the cantata, in the 8th section in this case. But I've actually decided to use the words from a different verse. The text for this cantata is a hymn, which means by definition it has verses, and I'm taking the central one. And the theme of this central verse is sort of the battle between life and death, and the ultimate victory of life. Es war ein wunderlicher Krieg, da Tod und Leben rongen. Das Leben behielt den Sieg, es hat den Tod verschlungen. Die Schrift hat verkündigt, dass wie ein Tod den anderen fraß, ein Spott aus dem Tod ist worden. Rest in peace, George.